Welcome back to another Pixel Game Maker tutorial. Today is a Patron request from C. Steven, who wanted to see how to make a debuff system in PGM. So with that said, let's get started. Alright, so here we are in my debuff system sample project. Link is in the description below. And so what I have right now is I have a fire system and a slowdown system. So if you walk on the lava, you get burnt and your health is going down whenever the red flash is there. And then when you step on the webs, you go slow until the debuff system wears off, and then it comes back to normal. So we're going to add one more into this, and then I'm also just going to show you generally how this works. All right, so really all there is to it is that the player has a debuff control child object to it, all right? And so you can see in the player under object connections, I have this debuff control, and it's just made a child, and then that it's going to be the object that controls all the debuffs. So you can see right here, if we go to actions, and with this selected, I always just hide this check motion. It lets me see a lot more of the screen. It's just a little tip if you didn't know about that. And then what this is doing though is it's processing your debuffs. So for instance, we have a link right here that says if the player's area detection equals 2, then it's going to set on fire on. And all that does is it activates a fire switch, and then it starts the countdown. You can see that the countdown is an on fire timer. So this needs to be an individual timer away from everyone else. This way you can stack debuffs on top of each other. But it needs to have a switch, and I used a common switch in this case. And the reason why is because also in the player object connection, there is an on fire debuff. And you can see that it's calling the debuff on fire object, but it needs the switch on in order to activate. So then if we go to the on fire here, we can see that it starts. So once that switch turns on, it starts right here, and it starts by showing a particle. Then it instantly goes to apply damage. So it's going to do the flash of the screen. It's going to -1 from the HP. It's going to wait 0.1. Then it's going to delete the screen effect. And then every so often, which is in this case 0.7 seconds, it's then going to apply the same damage. All right. And then every another 0.75 seconds, it's going to go back here. And it's going to loop until the on fire timer is less than or equal to 0. All right. And it's also got a processing order of 1, in which case it's going to go to over, which is going to make sure that the screen effect is deleted. Then it's going to turn the switch off now so that the object is gone, and then it's going to destroy object. All right, so it's going to get rid of its debuff pattern. Now, whenever you're destroying an object and you're generating one, you want to make sure that none is selected on your after destructed method. And so yeah, that is just the general gist of what the on fire is doing. Then we also have the same with the slow, except for it doesn't need a looping thing because it only changes the speed once and after. So basically we change the speed. I made a variable that determined what the slow speed was. And then at the end, when it's done, which in this case, it's once the slow timer is 0, then it's going to revert it. Well, first it's going to turn the slow active off. Then it's going to revert all the movement speeds back to normal, and then it's going to destroy object, again with none selected on the restore setting. So you can see that this is just the general setup, and then all you got to do is on the control, you just would add each next thing that we need. So in this case, to get slow speed, it's going to be an area detection of 5. So in the tiles here, you can see that this web, let's see where this web is, right here. You can see that I'm doing it when the object overlaps tile of 5. And then right here with the lava, I think it's one of these, or no, probably this bottom one. Yeah. So when the object overlaps, it shows 2 on the area detection. So that's how I'm determining that. So this one should be 5, which, yep, that's the slow. And then this one again, we've already seen this, but it's 2. So that's going to represent the fire. So this one's going to be a little bit different. This one is going to be when you touch an object, let's just say. So for instance, what I'm going to do is we're going to go to this right here. We're going to go to this potion right here. And we're going to make it to where when you drink this potion, it lowers your armor, all right, for so many seconds. So I'm going to click all. And then this time I want it to leave touching the tile wall detection because I want it to do when the player touches it. And I'm going to assign a number, and this one I'm just going to give 1. All right. And really the only target group that this can happen to is the player. But let's just say you had an enemy or another group, you would just add those groups right there. I just want the player on this case. So now in my object tab here, I'm going to create another object. And I'm just going to call this debuff armor down. I'm going to give it a debuff thing because I do have an animation I want to play with it. And then I'm going to just say it's a neutral. And then remove all of these and hit OK. All right. Now the animation I'm going to show is poison. And so this is just going to be the start one right here. And real simply, when it starts, what we're going to do is we want to make it hit harder, right? So your armor's lower. So what we're going to do is we're going to change a variable, the player, and it's going to be the received damage rate. And normally it's set to 100 by default, so 100% of damage. Well, we now want to say it's going to be 200% damage, all right? So now we've set it to be 200% damage. And then we're just going to have a done state, which is where we revert back to 100%. And then we destroy the object. And again, we want to make sure in the basic settings we have none selected. And I'm just going to add a link right here. Now this link is going to be something that we haven't created yet. So now we're going to go to resources and variables. And I'm going to create a new timer here. So this is going to be called the armor down timer. And that should be all that we need for this. And then we're going to go down to here and we're just going to make sure that the armor down timer is less than or equal to. It has to be equal to because timers, I'm pretty sure, only go to 0. They don't go less than 0. So you do need that equal to on this. And that should be it. So when this starts up, it's going to make the received damage rate on the player 200%. And then after the timer is 0, then it's going to revert it back to 100. And then it's going to destroy. And there's one more thing that I actually did forget here. And we need to go to switches now. And we need to add a switch called armor down active. And right before we destroy it, we need to turn that switch off. Armor down active is off. All right. And we could put it above. We could do wherever we want to do that one in particular. We just want to do it before it destroys. All right. So we turn the active switch off. Then we turn the damage rate back. And then we destroy the object. And that's really all there is to setting up the actual debuff. So now let's trigger it. Now we need to trigger it. All right. So in the control here, we're going to, let's see if I can just copy paste this. Yeah, I can just copy paste this right here. Call this armor down. And then all that we got to do is change this to armor down active equals on. And then we want to start the start count for the armor down timer. And let's just say 3 seconds like normal. And then I just want to have this link right here. This is if area detection is equal to 1. Then it's going to come down and do this. And then this one was just, it just goes right back out. And this way it can go and add another debuff if we need it. All right, so the trigger is actually ready now too. Now we just need to add it to the list of debuffs that we can have. So we're going to go to the player, go to object connections, add this one, call it debuff armor down. Select the debuff armor down, and then assign it to the armor down active debuff common switch. Now we go to the scene here, and we just select that potion that we put and put it right there. And then we can playtest this. And when we touch this, we now have a little armor down for 3 seconds. And we can verify that this worked by going to object data. We can select details on the player, bring this up here. And we have this received damage rate right here. You can see it's 100% right now. So if I go like this, you can see it changes to 200%. And then when the buff wears off, it goes back to 100%. So that is how you would add another debuff to the system. So hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any questions, comments below, Steam Forums Discord will get you figured out. That said, I'll see you at the next video.